Quanell, before we jump into some heavier topics tonight on the stream, I'd love to hear your take on this horrifying video from right here in Houston. It's gone viral all over the world of a man in a uniform carrying a gun, a white man at a convenience store, calling an African-American woman that he's arguing with horrible pejorative over and over again. They're condemning, you get online and people are condemning police generally, they're condemning him, and I'm curious as to your thoughts.
He is a pathetic excuse of a man.
Yeah.
When you watch that video, man, this man is extremely dangerous. And to be allowed to have a gun on his hip with a mindset like he has about black people, to speak like that to a woman, no matter who the woman is, what her race is, says you're less of a man. For that man to attack that woman, and what she didn't say at the end of the video is he followed her outside and spit on her. This man is crazy.
And before that, didn't he break a window on her car or something?
He drove by the motorcycle. She cut him off or something like that. She cut him off. He was upset. So he drove on side of a vehicle, knocked her window, broke it, drove on off. She follows him into the 7-Eleven, goes in and starts recording him. And this guy says some of the most reprehensible, ugly, nastiest things that any man should say to any woman, using the B word over and over. This man is insane. But my concern is he's a security officer that is allowed to have a gun on his hip and with a criminal history that suggests he shouldn't be allowed to carry a weapon. That's why we're asking for law enforcement to do a thorough investigation to this man, to see if he, one, was breaking the law in carrying that weapon, and two, to make sure he doesn't have a license to carry a weapon in the state of Texas and be a peace officer.
Well, so I don't think there's some illusion that he was a peace officer at some point in his life in Johnson City that people have tracked down. But a lot of people went out, and the posts originally on the viral video were about police officer. He shouldn't be a police officer. The heading was police officer. And all you have to do is still shot the image and look in, and it's clear. I knew he was a security guard from the American flag patch as opposed to a law enforcement patch, and just from his outfit and his stupid helmet that he was wearing. But just what a goofball. But there was some strange, first of all, people were condemning police officers, and it looks like he's just a security guard, which of course is just an online certification. It's a pretty easy process. Obviously you can open carry firearms in Texas, and he clearly was.
With that criminal history?
Okay. Well, but I mean, if he's a certified security guard, but even if he's not, as long as he doesn't have felony convictions, and at the end of the day, but you bring up an interesting point. Should people that have, that make racially charged or racist or bigoted statements against anybody because of their immutable characteristics, should they be denied a right to carry a firearm because they've exercised their right to free speech and that speech is bigoted?
But this looks more like a mental health breakdown to me.
Okay, but let's say he was just a racist. Do you think a racist should be able to carry a gun?
No, a racist should be allowed to carry a weapon.
Okay.
But when that racist start attacking other people verbally and assaulting them and spitting on them with that gun on his hip, that gun should be removed, because that's beyond disorderly conduct. That's beyond terroristic threat.
Well, spit is an assault, right?
Exactly.
So, but let's just say it was just language. Let's just say he was somebody that confronted somebody and said a bunch of racial pejorative things. You think he should lose his gun rights?
No.
Okay.
Because that will cut both ways. Then what happens when they say an activist says something that the broader society may not like, or one race may be offended by?
A lot of people saying ugly stuff.
Exactly. So that's the beauty of being an American in this country, to where we have freedom of speech. But of course you can be held accountable for what you say. But that's just, this man is insane. This man is crazy. And what respectable security institution would want him as an employee?
Well, they probably didn't know, right? And here's the curveball. Married to an African-American woman.
I hadn't brought that one up yet.
Yeah, I mean, it's so you have to ask you what's going on in his mind. Obviously, if he's married to an African-American woman, he holds her in high regard. He is in love with her, and how could he justify? I wonder how that
Did you say in love?
Well, you don't think he's in love with his wife?
Hell no.
Okay.
That man is insane.
Okay.
How in the hell could you go to bed with that black woman every night and call other black women the N-word B's and silly N-word B's and stupid N-words, and you go to bed with a black woman every night. See, Thomas Jefferson, he had a black mistress too that he went to bed with every night called Sally Hemings, and she gave him children. He took them same kids and put them into slavery and owned them. So I'm not shocked nor am I surprised by this, but we talking about what's going on in his head. What the hell is going on in hers? That's your husband, honey.
Well, maybe,
and you let that man come home and get some sugar.
Maybe he had evidence that
you let that bigot come home and get some sugar and some poontang pie. And you got the nerve to say that's your honey, that's your husband. She should have had an iron pot and skillet waiting when he walked in the door and had his shit packed out on the lawn. Then you ain't come to hit no more.
So, first of all, did you just say poontang pie?
Poontang pie.
Okay. I just want to be clear. I've not had that flavor of, is it adjacent to pumpkin pie? Because we are getting to the fall season. But let's get more. So, do you think there's anything that could have happened that she could have said? Or do you think it's anything that she could have done when he got home?
Yes.
To other than get out the door? Do you think that's a marriage worth saving? Well,
let me say this. She should have let him meet a real sister N-word when he got there. And back in the day, see, there was a system that black women had. When you had a crazy man or a crazy husband or boyfriend, you always argue with him in the kitchen. Because in the kitchen is where you got your pots, your pans, your butcher knives, all of that there. And so she could have really
be advocating for domestic violence. I mean, that's a little bit much, don't you think?
You gonna go to bed with that?
Okay, well, what's she gonna kill him? Is that what you're arguing for?
Well, I'm saying defend yourself. He's a bigot. He's a racist, okay. and he likes to assault black women. So he might have been coming home and used that bigotry on her.
Okay.
Well, at least cook him some stew. Cook him some stew, and go to the bathroom with the pot before you bring it to him.
Okay, that's horrible. So do you think the criticism that was directed at law enforcement, assuming that he was a police officer, was warranted, or do you think that's wrong?
To be honest with you, when I first saw the video, I thought he was a cop.
Yeah, most people did.
Because it looked like the Fort Bend County Sheriff's Department's uniform. Now, I really thought he might have been a sheriff's deputy until we later learned that he was not. So people's assumptions based on the imagery, based on the aesthetics, I can understand making that difference about these about cops. But really, I would have liked more cops to get on there and say, hey, look, I'm a retired cop or something like that. That's not a law enforcement uniform. The same way you broke it down. You used to be a police officer, but you quickly broke it down. We need more cops coming on the social media saying, hey, wait a minute, that's not us. We don't roll like that. This is what we do. These are the policies that we follow. But the problem is you don't have enough cops who come on who have the knowledge and the law.
A lot of police officers are constrained
law
on what they can say and do on social media.
Retired
right?
cops?
But I'm saying active duty officers. And that's the thing, like I am quick to criticize, I'll criticize lawyers, I'll criticize judges, which is not in the best interest of lawyers typically, and I've been criticizing police for decades, but you can recognize valid criticism and then outcry or push back against invalid criticism. But
let's get one point straight.
Every police officer has dealt with this kind of security
idea
guard.
of defund the police,
okay,
that didn't come from black people.
That
came from liberal white activists who started that.
Well,
this idea of get the
hold
police.
On.
No.
You trying to blame Whitey?
Let's be real.
Black Lives Matter was all about
Black Lives Matter did not start
and
that.
Defund the police.
They didn't start that.
Well, I'm not saying
defund the police came from white anarchist protesters.
Okay.
And let me tell you something. Black folk know how bad we need the police.
Okay.
Brothers and sisters in the hood know we need the police.
I feel like
we want good police.
Enough.
We want good police, not corrupt police. We want good police, not racially profiling cops, not abusive cops. But everybody wants that. But trust me, you are going to the hood and take a microphone and say, would you like the community to be defund the police and have no cops around? And see what you say.
Well, have you been to the Bay Area recently?
Yes, went to California and I shot through Oakland real fast for half a day.
How Oakland looks like a third world country, right? It is terrifying. And when you know it's bad, when the NAACP, the Oakland NAACP, obviously very, very left wing, is saying, hey, y'all, we need police. They actually issued that letter a few months ago. When you leave like Oakland A's stadium, it looks and feels awful, right? It feels like anarchy. And this far left, I was talking to a Democrat friend of mine that lives in the Woodlands, right? And they were espousing the need to, constrain law enforcement, and just going on and on. You know, typical far left wing screed, fantasy land stuff. And my response is, well, but you live in the Woodlands. You live here because it's safe, right? And they agreed, yes. And I said, well, that's all Republican policies. And while I think that the Woodlands in Montgomery County really need to be corrected on the way they're fighting the war on drugs, I think they can be some of the results are impressive.
And the disparity in sentencing African Americans compared to others.
Right, but damn it, you want to be somewhere that's safe. And in San Francisco and especially Oakland and in a lot of major urban areas in this country right now, you just don't feel safe.
So this is what your liberal white friends should do.
Okay.
Because if you
why did you assume he was white?
Oh, you know he was white.
No, he wasn't.
You know he was white because see, wasn't nobody black who ever grew up in a black community even
bigot.
think like that. Nobody
that's why you're okay with bigots having
in the
guns,
black
'cause you don't want to lose
community
your gun.
would ever talk like that,
Okay.
Charles. If you go talk to any educated black person who came from the hood, they'll tell you we want the police. If you go into the hood and speak to the brothers on the corner, they'll tell you we still want the police.
Marching, demanding defund the police, demanding abolish prisons, which I've always thought is insane because, you know, prisons shouldn't have drug users in there, but the child molesters, the murderers, the robbers now we're calling thieves. We're calling it shoplifting to pull a knife on someone.
What we have to do is one, put more creative, intelligent programs in prison
we need to
properly
spend a bunch of
rehabilitate
money on
those
prison.
prisoners. Let's make sure that they come out of there better. One, drug treatment in prison.
Oh yeah.
Educational programs in kids
in prison.
Build them up so when they come back to the community, they are better coming home than what they were when they went in.
The truth is, our prison system right now forces people into racialized gangs. Forces people either to become victims of violence and rape.
Vikings are victims.
Or monsters, right? It's not building, it's very hard for anyone to circumnavigate it, but obviously it would cost a lot of money. And you talk about money, let's shift gears a little bit. So obviously the Ukraine and Israel asking for billions from America. Biden just today saying, hey, I need billions for the border. He's finally recognizing the crisis of the border, which I think is somewhat exacerbated by the fear of radical Islamist terror in the wake of Hamas's call for a global jihad. I think that I think we're spending a lot of money on everybody but the American people. What do you think? You think we should be sending this money to Israel?
I believe that the Democratic Party and Democratic voters can do much better than Joe Biden. In fact, the Democratic Party should be ashamed of themselves to where they're not running other candidates to run against him to give the Democratic voters an opportunity to have a choice who they want to send back to the White House. But the problem is, man, Joe Biden does not have a clue how to fix the border problem. The border issue
he doesn't want to fix it.
It's been before his desk for his entire administration. Even before then, as vice president, nothing happened. Now you're going to turn around, you want billions for the border. They won't do anything about it at all, period.
He scrapped all the metal from Trump's wall, and they want to rebuy it. I wonder who made that fortune.
Exactly. That's corruption. Yeah. But now Israel needing billions and Ukraine needing billions, I find it ironic that we can always find money for war.
Right.
We can find money to fund war, to kill people, but we can't find money to give teachers pay raises. We can't find money to where we can fix that teacher shortage in America because we're not paying teachers anything. We can't find money to give police officers a pay raise. Many people don't know this right here in Houston, Harris County. Do you know that the starting entry-level salary for a Harris County Sheriff's Deputy is only $1 above minimum wage? In some cities, it's $1 above minimum wage what they make here in Houston, Harris County. It's a damn disgrace. But we can't find money to give them a pay raise. We can't find money to pay raise for firefighters. So our frontline responders who serve and protect the people every day, we can't find raises for them, but we find money for war. This is madness. We cannot find money to build dying infrastructure of these schools that are dying, but yet we find money for war. Something is wrong with that, Charles, and American people need to stand up and say to Biden, hell no.
Well, when you talk about finding money for war, I mean, ultimately, it's always about control, right? That the need for war that is force-fed down our throats, in the throats of people around the world, is all about controlling the populace. Obviously, in either authoritarian regimes like China or radical theocracies like Iran, or even, with the Christian moral majority of the 80s here in America, religion has also been used as a tool for control of us regular people, right? What I'm tired of, and you talk about paying public servants, I think you go far beyond that, right? We have millions, I think it's like 48 million starving children or something insane in this country. There are children below the poverty line that don't have access to food. We have like these horrible schools with horrible outcomes. At some point we have to say, hey, what about us, right? Like, hey, let's have a healthcare solution for us before we're funding healthcare for people all around the world. It seems like we're being force-fed the thought that we have to suffer. The Fed is trying to destroy the middle class and destroy the economy, really so the government doesn't have to stop spending so much money, because it's government overspending that's keying the inflation that they're now trying to, house payments have gone out of control. Car payments have gone out of control. These interest rates are out of control, and they're all designed these policies are created by the post-monetary, by people that don't need money, they'll never need money, they're all super rich, and it's designed to impact those of us that get up and work every damn day, and it's despicable. And it's not people that were ready to retire, they've watched their retirement funds go down to nothing.
Could you imagine if the Biden administration said, I changed my mind, we want to take all the money that's have earmarked for Ukraine and Israel, let's take that money now and say we're going to give every mother and household 1 year free daycare of your choice for your child. 2, but it has to be in the community where you reside, where you live. 2, we're going to give every teacher at least a $25,000 pay raise this 1 year, just this 1 year. Then we're also going to take this money and put trade programs back into the high schools to teach these young people trades again that we've gotten rid of. We're also now going to take some money and put educational programs back into the prisons so we don't bring the same people out that we send in. They come out better trained and better prepared to enter the workforce, and no matter what their criminal history is, they can still get gainful employment. Can you imagine? They say, now the rest, we're going to take in drug rehabilitation and drug counseling and drug therapy and spread that around America to deal with the fentanyl crisis. Can you imagine that? The man would win. He would win the re-election in a landslide.
Well, I think one problem with your math, first of all, just giving someone free daycare without requiring work or school, saying, hey, okay, we're going to give you this, but you've got to do this. There's got to be some carrot with the
Most
stick.
working parents cannot afford it, Charles.
No,
you was a working parent.
I believe
you. Remember what that was like?
My wife's whole paycheck would just go to daycare.
Exactly.
But here's the thing. I'm saying that you just don't give it. Instead of just saying, hey, we're going to give this to this one set of people, why don't we find solutions?
I didn't say
for
one
all
set.
Americans?
I said to all parents.
Well,
but the daycare, single moms.
Right.
But it must be a daycare in the area where you reside.
But again, you're incentivizing broken homes, right? And this is the new Biden math, right? Well, let's have this solution. Oh, well, just for the Filipino men under the age of 15, or black women in this certain demographic, or indigenous people. And it's, instead of saying, hey, let's find a solution for everyone, right? And the people that are really getting left out, the people that are really being ignored, were ignored during the pandemic, are ignored to this day by the Biden administration, are those of us that get up every day and go to work and pay the lion's share in taxes, because the super rich don't pay
Charles,
taxes.
have you seen how much daycare is?
No, but I agree.
A two-party income household can barely afford to pay it.
Right, but why not?
It's not based on race.
Why not?
It's all women in this country
suffering
with this.
When you say single women, you're excluding women that are still
so let's
married.
I agree with you. Let's take our single women and just say families, period, man.
Okay.
Let's give them a daycare tax break that's greater than what they've been getting. Charles, like you just said, your wife's whole paycheck went to daycare. That's insane.
Yeah. Brother, that was in the 90s.
Can you imagine?
Yeah.
Can you imagine if we would say to these mothers, look, we're going to help subsidize that for 1 year. Take that money, put it in the savings.
Well, I think we should have a universal solution. I mean, you talk about all this, a health care solution for all Americans. Or if you look at the welfare state, right, and how much money is spent on the bureaucracy of the welfare state, the enforcement of the welfare state, the people that get arrested for welfare fraud. We'll never know how much PPP fraud went on in this country, right? So many people stealing so much money from the government. And of course, wealthy people, famous people, also reaching their hands out and taking checks for their little side business.
Brett Favre.
Where Tom Brady, where people are still literally just struggling. Their jobs have been shut down. They're small business people. And maybe, we could do something, and it's a radical idea, but hey, let's look at all the money we spend on the bureaucracy of welfare and all the money we spend on welfare and across the board, and instead say, okay, well, everybody, we're just going to give you a universal basic income. You take all that money, you throw it in a pile. All the money that goes to anyone in this country that is regulated by some giant bureaucracy, you fire everybody in the bureaucracy, you throw all the money in a pile, and you give every American a check.
Charles,
to be honest, make too much freedom.
To be honest with you, Charles, I don't have a problem with that
at
all.
I bet you do.
But I would say this, Charles. How about we just, and I'm going to say the words of Donald Trump, shockingly. How about
You've been a Trump guy for years.
That's not true. You're wrong. How about we just reinvest into America first? Okay. Take all the money from these wars.
Well, that's what I'm talking about.
Exactly. And just give it back to the American people, man, in creative ways, right, to where we could benefit.
But why does that
out of control?
Why does that have to be creative, right? Why not just not be uncreative? Why not just say, hey, if you're an American citizen, right, we're going to give you a baseline of health care. Not all the bells and whistles, but a baseline of health care. And you know what? We're going to give you a universal income. Now, the Republicans never go for it because they call socialism, communism.
This is why I say creative.
Right. But
because we don't have an unlimited budget to do it.
But you don't, but they're spending
so we got to be creative.
We don't have to be creative. You just say, hey, you know what? This huge segment of the government that costs us so much money overseeing all these programs, hey, y'all go find other jobs, and we're going to take all that money and all this money, and then the IRS is just going to cut everybody a check every month. But the problem with that, they'll never do it because that's too much damn freedom.
Remember, if you do that, then you get no benefit out of hiring 83,000 new IRS agents.
Here's the thing. You get no benefit of telling black families, well, you got to break your home to get this welfare check.
Hispanic families too.
Well, I know.
All poor families too.
But who has suffered the worst from that?
Well, historically, it's been us in the black community, but now it's happening to all families.
Oh, well,
Have you seen some of this white poverty in America, man?
Oh, it's horrible.
And that's a well-kept secret.
Man, you go to
that's
Kentucky.
A well-kept secret.
You go to Kentucky. Well, it's not a secret. It's people don't care.
No, it's a well-kept.
Let me
tell you why it's a secret. How many programs you've ever seen on TV? Folks know white poverty.
Right.
Thank you. So it is a goddamn secret.
But here's the thing.
It is.
Here's the thing.
Look at West Virginia, mountains of West Virginia,
a lot
Appalachia.
Of your arguments,
oh my God!
When you tell somebody, you go to Appalachia, you go to Kentucky.
Crazy.
Kentucky has the poorest county in this country, and it's 90-some% white and overwhelmingly Republican. Well, let's say you go and tell those people that have seen hopeless intergenerational poverty their whole lives, right? And you tell them, oh, well, you're privileged, so you need to get to the back of the line to this benefit. And that's what's insane about how we are racializing everything in this country when we could just say, hey, let's just provide this instead of doing things for the rest of the damn world. And I'll tell you, we don't need to do it for people that has entered here unlawfully, that aren't here lawfully, that aren't citizens. Like you go to Great Britain as a student or an employee, you've got to pay a fee to that country to use their healthcare system, right? You don't just get it, right? We do more for people that enter this country unlawfully than we do for our own poor. We do more for this country, for people that enter this country unlawfully than we do for the people that get up and take their ass to job. I don't know about you, Quanell, but I got 5 jobs. I got, and I'm working all of them constantly.
Multiple hats, brother. We wear multiple hats,
and
there's not enough hours in a day.
What does the government do for you?
To be honest with you,
not a damn
nothing.
Thing. Right?
To be honest with you, nothing. But ask me to give it something.
Oh, I just wrote them an absurd check on October 16th.
And the sad part about it, Charles, man, until the American people wake up and stop being psychologically manipulated and tricked by politicians and certain media outlets. And here's a frightening thing for the powers that be. Can you imagine if white folks and black folks say, look, for 30 days, we're going to talk candidly. We ain't going to fight. We ain't going to argue. We're going to talk. We're going to get to the bottom of these things. Well, what are we going to talk about? Politics in Washington, corruption. how much politicians are making, secret side deals, etc., who's being robbed, who's been taken advantage of, where's all our money going overseas and what it's going there for. Talk about America's foreign policy. Then we're going to talk about how to make the politicians more responsible back to the American people. That conversation right there, they would start a war. Who would start that war? The government.
Well,
it wouldn't be us. They'd have to declare war on the people.
There are some really easy solutions, right? Term limits. Right? Dan Patrick and Abbott shouldn't still be the lieutenant governor and governor, right? They should have term limits, right? We should have term limits in the State House. We should have term limits in Washington.
Stop career politicians.
It should be something you do. We should also have publicly funded elections, right? And we should completely keep out private money in the election space. So, okay, if you're running for office, you get this X number of dollars, you get, or, you know, a platform for advertising. Because right now, it is just the wealthy determining who votes for what, and nobody. And then what the Fed is doing, what Jerome Powell is doing to destroy the middle class, like there's
a middle class.
When the numbers are good for America they raise interest rates. Yes, we do.
No, we don't.
And
America
in fact,
America has the working poor.
Okay,
they're the working poor.
Under Trump, Americans were doing, before the pandemic, they were doing
How
better than everybody.
How can you be middle class if you miss 3 paychecks, you're homeless? That ain't middle class. If you miss 3 paychecks, you're homeless and out of doors, that ain't middle class. That's a trick to the American people. We have the working poor who've been made to believe that they're middle class. Yeah. The country is going in the wrong direction. And I'm going to say this and I'm done. All of this that we've talked about may be trumped by artificial intelligence and what is coming with that reality.
Well, I'm hoping
a lot of these jobs that common everyday American citizens hold, we may not hold in 10 years.
Well, that's why we can't have this great polarization of wealth for the super, super wealthy, right? But here's the rub. I'm hoping that AI results in a world like that Disney Pixar movie, WALL-E, we're all just giant fat people floating around in our chairs, having everything we want.
I don't think so, brother.
I mean, I'm a lot closer to that giant fat person than you are, but it does sound like a wonderful reality. But I also agree, I don't think so. I think it's going to end up with a bunch of oligarchs and seas of poor people. So I tell everybody.
Wicked leaders.
I tell everybody, take care of your family, take care of your damn self, take care of your community, because ain't nobody coming to take care of you. And the government sure as hell ain't doing it.
And stay informed, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for watching Fox Face Off. We appreciate your continued support, and please continue to push this program.